And hello, everybody. It's Friday afternoon, and that means it's time for Wind Down. Now, we have Gina missing in action. We have no idea where she is. Oh, she says she's logging in, but I'm here, so I'm going to wish you an awesome Friday, and we're here to wind down and talk about going beyond the obvious. Sorry, I'm just tracking Gina's messages as she comes in. She's logging in. She should be here any minute. So today we're going to talk about going beyond the obvious and how sometimes I think we become oblivious to the obvious, and we think about things and we don't get past what everybody else is doing. And this whole thing started because this week somebody sent me an ad or a video, and I will post this in the notes, of a Coca-Cola bottle. I don't know if you've seen this, of a Coca-Cola bottle label, that when you pulled on it, it was a holiday label, and when you pulled on the little tab, it turned into a bow. And it was so cool. You could tell people were watching it all over and over and over again, because when you pulled on the tab, it turned into a bow. And it's got me thinking about how we need to go beyond the obvious. And there's so many different ways to go beyond the obvious. And I guess the first way that we can go beyond the obvious is to look at things that serve one purpose and imagine what other purpose it could serve. So for example, nobody thinks really of turning a label into a Christmas bow until Coke did it. And so I started to look for examples of really cool things where people looked at things in their environment and went beyond the obvious. So there's a company in Bangkok called Rejoice, or Rejoice Conditioner. And what they did was they looked up in the sky, and in Bangkok is famous for all of these sorry, Gina says she doesn't have the link. So hold on 2 seconds while I do this on the fly. And I'm just getting Jer. I know we sent the link, but she says she doesn't have the link, so we're not sure where the links have gone. But anyway, so somebody looked up in the sky at all of these wires. I don't know if you've ever been to Bangkok, but if you look up in the sky, there's all these wires, and they looked at it and they said, those aren't wires, that's a mass of tangled hair. And so what they did was they took this giant comb and they put a giant comb on top of these wires and made it an ad for Rejoice Conditioner. And I just thought, that's so cool. That's going beyond the obvious. That's going beyond what we see. Another example is in Iceland for Breast Cancer Month. Somebody must have been up at the top of the building, or yeah, we're gonna post these videos. We absolutely post these videos in the comment. But in Iceland, somebody must have been up high on a building, and they looked at the way the highways were formed. I'll put these photos there too. They looked at the way the highways formed, and somebody thought, that looks exactly like the pink ribbon for Breast Cancer Month. And so what they did when Breast Cancer Month came along, they actually turned that part of the highway into a pink ribbon. And so there are tons of examples like that, of touch points that we use each and every day. And then if we just looked at them differently, we could see other opportunities to go beyond the obvious. There's another one that I love, which is a Hellmann's mayonnaise example. And this is one of my favorite examples ever. So what Hellmann's did is they created these special shopping carts. And essentially what happened is whenever you put Hellmann's mayonnaise in your shopping cart and you got to the cash register spit out a recipe on the back of your receipt, not just for Hellmann's mayonnaise, but they spit out a recipe on the back of the receipt for Hellmann's mayonnaise using the other items that you have in your cart. Now, how cool is that? So we look at a receipt and we say, it's a receipt, but do we want better receipts or do we want different receipts? Do we want receipts that can deliver more value to our customers, to go beyond the obvious in how they deliver value? The same with the wires at the top. So a lot of going beyond the obvious is about seeing things differently and seeing things that we may walk by each and every day and touch points that we have in our business and just taking them beyond the obvious and doing something different with them. So I don't know if, hi, Cheryl Lynn, thank you for being here. I don't know if any of you have any experiences in your businesses where you've done something really cool like that, where you've gone beyond the obvious. Obviously, no pun intended, one of those touch points that I talk about a lot is business cards. Because I think we have the opportunity to go beyond the obvious with business cards. And I often say to people, if you know me well, here we go. If you know me well, you know, I'm adding Gina to the broadcast. If you know me well, you know that I don't believe that a business card needs to be a business card. Hey, Gina.
Am I here?
You are. Welcome.
I don't see anything. I don't see you.
I see you, and you're in the show. Can you hear me?
No, I can hear you.
Okay, well, I can see you, and you are in the show.
Good.
But you can't see anything.
No, but that's okay. I can hear you, and as long as you see me and hear me, I guess we're good. Yeah, I don't know why, but it's just
so obviously not a predictable day today.
No, well, we've been on a call that went about 30 minutes longer with the situation, and yeah, not a pleasant Friday, but one of those things. You go, business on a Friday is always chaotic and crazy here.
Yeah. So how was the rest of your week?
Good. Yeah, we've been actually pulling our team members, most of them working together, the ones in Colorado, and that's been good, and working on lots of projects, and yeah, there's a lot going on. So it's always a fun thing at the end of the day. But today I'm going, okay, I need to get off calls. I shouldn't be on any calls.
How was your week? About going beyond the obvious.
Yes.
And I was saying that the whole idea of this going beyond the obvious started when I saw a Coke campaign, which is actually from a few years ago, where the label, these were actual holiday bottles, where the label, did you see it? And you pull a tab and it turns into a bow.
A bow, yeah.
I was just sharing with people some other examples of, that's one way to go beyond the obvious, is to look at the touch points we have in their business and pretty much ask ourselves, what would be totally unexpected to do with this? And I think it's about asking, what is it and what could it be? What is it and what could it be? And I think that if we focus on what it is, like business cards, I was just starting to talk about business cards. If we focus on what it is, then we get locked in. So just the phrase business card itself gets us locked in into thinking that we're a card. It needs to be a card. But if we ask, what could it be? The possibilities are endless, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Which is interesting, because it is always about looking at things and saying, if you could wipe the board clean and say, what could it be that's different? It gets you thinking differently. And I think so many times we do what everybody does. And even when we try to create something different, we end up being pressured by, which we've talked about, fear of doing something different, or the pressures of, well, we know that other way worked. So I think it's sometimes harder to get creative, especially in the silo that we tend to work in.
Hi, Bob. Bob just joined us. So hi, Bob. Hi. I'm glad to see you here. We've missed you in some of the recent shows. So hi, Bob. Thrilled to have you here. So here's a funny story from this week. You talk about going beyond the obvious, from the lady who supposedly makes her living going beyond the obvious. Right? And this is what happened to me. And I guess I share this story just to show that it happened to all of us. Even those of us who think that we're pretty good at this stuff. So I'm, the CAPS convention, the Association of Professional Speakers convention, is coming up. And there's this event we're doing in the convention called Meet the Experts, which you would know from going to a speakers convention. Anyway, when the idea for this year's Meet the Experts was was posed, the whole idea was there were going to be no topics. It wasn't going to be, I sit at my table and talk about marketing, innovate, whatever. Everybody was going to just say, it's Q&A. Come to my table, ask me whatever questions I want. You want. All good. That's how I provide my description. I provide not a photo, but a little Bitmoji of me with a halo over my head. I called it The World According to Newman. And basically, it just said, come ask me your questions and expect the unexpected. So 3 weeks ago, I go onto the website and I see that there's 10 people in this Meet the Experts, and they all have descriptions. They all have descriptions.
Now the pressure. Yeah.
No Q&A this long, right? And so what am I thinking? I'm thinking, oh my God, did I misunderstand the rules?
Right.
From me. Oh my God, did I misunderstand the rules? So I send an email to the person who's organizing and they go, no, don't worry about it. 3 days ago, I gone, there's now 25 of us. You get where I'm going. There are now 25 of us. Every single one of them has a perfect photo and a description this long about the expertise that they're going to be talking about. And here's what I did. Yes, I have to confess. I jumped on my computer and I sent an email to the guy organizing it and our administrator going, I think I need to change my stuff. It does. These words came out of my mouth. It doesn't fit in. I pressed send on the email. So 2 seconds later, I went, what the fill in the blank? Like, what was I thinking? And then I went back and looked at the page and I went, this is so cool. Everybody's got a photo and a description and I don't. And how cool is that? But even the best of us get caught up. It's exactly what you were saying in there are rules and we're supposed to follow the rules. And if we don't, we have to fix it.
Well, I think it's kind of funny because I do that every year around the holiday. Whenever I say I'm not going to do cards, I'm not going to mail out Christmas cards. I'm not going to mail out holiday cards. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to fall into that trap. And then you get the first card, then the second card, then the third card. And pretty soon you're going, okay, I'm a total slacker. I better get a card. So it's that pressure we feel. And I think to be different in our business, there's that fear of what if it doesn't work? I think it's a great idea, but what if it doesn't work? And I think to go beyond the obvious, we have to, like you always say, we have to have courage.
We absolutely have to have courage. And there's so many opportunities. And just so what if it doesn't work? I'm not saying, I'm just saying, if you put your idea through the 5 S's, I'm not saying, I'm just saying, you'll have a higher probability that it will work. But going beyond the obvious is scary. And so I know you had some ideas too about the different ways. So one of the ways we can go beyond the obvious is the touch points in our business. We can look at them and go, okay, what else could it be? What would be unexpected?
I think the touch points we have to look at, and we still look at those touch points through the filter of what has already been done. So I think we have to look at touch points and say, is that a touch point that we need? Do we need to change that touch point? Should we be doing something before this? Should we be doing something after this? And, we've been really hammering this on this new business that we're starting. And it's, what do the touch points need to be? And what's been helpful, and because it's a brick and mortar build, we've been going to mystery shopping. And every week, mystery shopping a few of them. And then asking ourselves, how did we feel after that? What was missing? What blew us away? Did anything blow us away? And I think it'd be interesting if we were to be able to go experience other people in our industry to see how did we feel after that. It's not always easy. I think that's a hard part.
And I think one of the real benefits that you're talking about, and Jared says, I'm going to put this up here because this is a big part of our work before, during, and after, because people don't think of it that way. And we say, think of it like a campaign. No touch point really stands alone. It's a series of touch points that people go through. So Jared, that's a really good reminder. But I think the other benefit of going and doing the things that you're talking about is just, we're inspired by what's not going on, but we can also be inspired by what is going on.
Yeah, like
if we become aware of intentionally looking for moments in any industry where someone has gone beyond the obvious, then we should be collecting those examples in a little, however you take notes, whether it's in paper or you've got something in Evernote. We should be like collecting those in an inspiration journal and looking at, I gave an example before you came on the call of in Bangkok, there was this conditioner that did an advertisement because they looked up and they saw all these tangled wires.
Wires, right.
And they turned it into tangled hair and put a giant comb in it. And so it's just about seeing not what is, but what could be. And I think that going out, not just in our competitors, but going out and looking at marketing stuff online and intentionally going out and seeing what other people are doing. And when they go beyond the obvious and collecting that inspiration can help us have the inspiration to do it too.
And I think it's sad that it's sad how few experiences we have that blow us away. I mean, we're having to seek them out on the internet, to find them around the world, to find them. Why aren't we having those experiences every day? Right. We are consumers every day. And so it's a matter of looking at our business through new eyes and saying, if someone were to mystery shop somehow what we do, what would blow them away? What would be so unexpected that it's beyond the obvious service they came here for? They come here for a certain service, but what are we giving them that is like, wow, I didn't really think that I even wanted that.
Yeah, absolutely. And you were talking about that last week in this new business venture of yours, and that space you wanted to create where people go and feel like they're not in an office, but that they're in this great shared space with friends.
Right. And it's interesting because one of the things that we keep going back, I have been teetering on the fence. No one else has been, but whether to go all women focused or not, to make it a women only co-working space. And I feel like, okay, there's downsides to that because I know when you're brainstorming with men and women, you're going to hear different perspectives. And we've talked about that. You have to see things different. Then there's the other side of it going, a lot of women don't feel safe, especially if they're working till 8 p.m. because it's 24/7. You can log in and out of a building. It's a commercial real estate that you can log in and out of your office whenever. Do women feel safe if there's men working in the building and they're working there late? So there's that side of it going, that makes sense. But that's, so
I probably feel safer.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
I would probably feel safer.
So we've been going through, and I look at some things going, I really want to niche down, but then that fear of, do I leave my picture and my description out and be different because there's no one else doing it, So yeah. I think there is that thing of we have to, we have to do research. We have to know our audience is what we're saying is right now we have to really do more research, and we're holding some pop-up events, which is interesting because that was a topic that you've been talking about, and these pop-up events of going, let's do some just events where we have this fun connecting time and networking and bringing some education, but some fun, and then survey this group. And so that'll help.
That's really interesting that you should bring that up. And I will put the link because the video that we did this week was on pop-up experiences and how they're not just for retail anymore. So you talk about going beyond the obvious. Pop-up shops have been around for years. They've been around for a few decades, actually. But the obvious assumption is that pop-up shops are for retail, but there are lots of brands doing some really incredible things that are not shops, and they're more pop-up experiences. So I'll put the link to that, and I'll put the link to the Beyond the Obvious video too.
Yeah, so that is a great video and great topic because I look at it and say, even in a service industry, we can participate in pop-up experiences if we bring the experience to a physical location somewhere.
Absolutely.
Or why do you have to have a physical location? Well, I mean, you could do a pop-up virtually and do pop in. Instead of pop-up, you're popping in using video or some experience through email.
What is an impromptu Facebook Live?
That's right.
But a pop-up experience.
Yeah, that is a pop-up experience.
Think about it, it's like, and if you want to think back, flash mobs were also pop-up experiences.
That was a pop-up experience. And so someone can bring their service or their topics to another, this takes partnership and collaboration, but I think that's what we need to do is get collaborative with people that are in a similar space, serving the same audience, but in different areas, and say, what can we do together that could really bring a unique experience to our audience and provide super great value? Especially, I mean, right now it's the holidays coming, and then you've got the new year. So new business goals, new focus. There's some really strong things you can play with in this concept of pop-up experiences. And I think, when we're delivering something unexpected and going beyond the obvious, I think that's what we have to do is we have to say, everyone expects me to either talk about this or train on this or provide this service. What if you didn't? What if you did something collaboratively and it was really cool and different?
I think that's a great idea. And this also, I think, is really relevant to our presence on social media, and certainly the collective we, not ours as in mine. But I think that it's so relevant, and we've noticed it. Our most popular posts are the ones that are our kind of touch point Tuesday site bites with the really unique. It's because nobody else is doing them.
Yeah.
Nobody else is doing them. If I look on my Instagram feed and I see which of the images really caught people's attention, they're ones that are like no other images. And, I often say the first thing you have to do is surprise people, because first thing you have to do is get their attention, then you can draw them in. And going beyond the obvious in that first moment of any interaction, before, during, or after, is what catches people's attention. And then there's the story of Beta brand socks. I don't know if you know about Beta brand socks, but they have sock insurance. Now, this is really cool. You don't pay for sock insurance, but if you buy a pair of brand socks, you have sock insurance. Why? Because how many times do we lose socks in the dryer, right? Where do they go? I don't know. Is there a little elf in there that eats them? I don't know. I have no idea, but it drives me nuts, bonkers. But so they decided they were going to go beyond the obvious. They were going to, if you think about Dollar Shave Club and Harry's, they went beyond the obvious. They figured out a way to provide a service that's not in the way that it was been provided before.
Yeah, I love that. I love the sock insurance. That's hysterical.
What?
And you see, to me, it's like you have to take these ideas and go, well, that's great because they're a sock company. They could do stuff like that. It's like Poopery or anybody. But it's like, how do we take that idea and say, what's the spin that our business could, Yeah,
we say, what's the flashpoint? So the flashpoint is the idea behind the idea.
Right.
And it doesn't matter what the business is. It's the idea behind the idea. The flashpoint for that idea is simply take something that your customers are preoccupied by, that they're preoccupied by, and turn it into something that you can offer them that costs you pretty much nothing.
Yeah.
Every so often a client will write in, or a customer, and go, I lost my sock, and Beta brand sends them a new one. Well, the cost of that versus the goodies that they just got and the publicity they've got because they have sock insurance.
Right.
It's a drop in the bucket.
Yeah. I was going to say, that's the thing and people talk about it, because that person that gets that other sock in the mail is going to tell everybody, you're not going to believe I just got a sock replaced because I have sock. I mean, there's the thing is you're going to get people that will take your message and market for you. Because something super unique.
Because people don't share better, they share different, right? They share stories. Experiences are stories that people feel compelled to share. And so for anybody listening, whether you're listening live today or on the replay, the real question is to just look at your business and see where you could go beyond the obvious, whether it's the offers you have, and some of them will work and some of them won't work.
Right.
But you've tried to go beyond.
Try it. And that's the thing is, I always say in marketing, you're experimental marketers, and you have to try things and then measure the results and see, did it work? Did it not? Okay, let's try this. Did it work? Did it not? And sometimes you have to change just a variable to see if that works. But I think we need to do more of that. And part of it is you have to get together and brainstorm on ideas. And we try to come up with things by ourselves, and we get stuck and we go, oh, I'm too busy, I'll move on. But we've been having fun, our team getting together and brainstorming on what are all the things that we could add that don't cost anything for us?
Right.
Like that they're really great value added services that we can bring in to people that are having to be, getting their best work done. And so it's been fun because I will hear an idea and like, oh my gosh, that's brilliant, which then sparks the next idea. So I think sometimes to go beyond the obvious, we have to go beyond ourselves to come up with them.
Well, isn't that interesting? There's an activity that I do in my longer programs where we give everybody an object. We divide them up into groups and everybody gets an object. And they have to come up with 20 things that object isn't. And
Right.
we have some very weird things that we share. And then I guide them through, and then so I'll stop them. Before the 2 minutes is up, I'll stop them and I'll say, now imagine that everybody in the group is only 5 years old. And then I'll give them some time and then I'll stop them and say, now imagine that you're a space alien, and give them and now imagine that you're blind. But at the end, when I do the debrief, we talk about how they would describe the first however many ideas that came out before I said, now imagine that you're 5 years old. Mm-hmm. And the words that come back time after time after time are obvious, predictable, logical, been there, done that. And I usually interrupt the flow by going, so if we were in agreement here, there are ideas that your competition would have come up with too.
Right. And I bet even in the room, they probably came up with similar things.
Yes. So you're right. You kind of almost have to do those. I call it taking out the garbage.
Yeah.
You kind of have to get those ideas on the table to free up the brain space, because it's only when you go, okay, I may be out of ideas.
Right.
But that's when stuff really starts to flow.
Yeah, that is interesting. Now it's that whole thing of, you try coming up with a bunch of ideas on your own, then you get a bunch of people together and it's going to multiply more than just two people. And I think I think one thing we all get stuck in our business. And if we were to be honest with ourselves and say, okay, we're at the end of 2018. Where is our business now? Where was it at the end of 2017? How different is it?
Yeah.
What do we need to do for 2019 to really go beyond that obvious solution that we thought that we needed to provide, that maybe there's something else that we need to be doing that can really magnify and take our business to somewhere where we never anticipated.
Well, we've gone down that path.
Yeah.
2019 is going to be a big year.
Yeah. And it's something so different in the way that we think, and I think that's the thing that gets in our way, is we just keep thinking the same way. We keep doing the same things and keep plugging around, and we think we're being so different. It's not so different.
And I did a little Facebook Live in the group this morning, and I talked about balancing perspectives and opinions. And it's really interesting how much we are impacted by the opinions of others, both good and bad. Right. And so this goes back to your point at the very beginning, which is, you have an idea and you share it with people and they go, you can't do that. Right. Like, that's never going to work. You can't do that. And for many people, that's the end of the journey. It's the end of the journey. And it takes a lot of courage to say to people, you know what? I'm not so sure about that. I think there's a way to make this work, which is exactly where you are with this new business of yours.
Oh, and my thing is, I'm so confident that I know it will work, that I think people are surprised that, okay, I can't believe you're already looking at spaces and buildings and going down this path. I've already signed on with a realtor to help me find the space. And I've already got everything going. I'm like, okay, you can sit for 6 months and plan this, or we can just every week let's
go. Audition or commit.
I'm like,
that's for sure.
The only thing I do need, I keep telling myself, caution, is audition a lot of spaces before you commit. But on the concepts, I'm like, I know this is going to work. It's so different from what's already being offered. And I think that's a fun part of it. But and I even question this. Why is it that when we embark on something new, it's so exciting and we come up with so many ideas? When we go back to our old business, why are we stuck in that old way? Because we know it's working. It's harder to say, okay, I'm going to try something.
I think there's something that happens physically, probably the same thing that happens when you're in a new relationship, even if it's a new friendship. There's a lot of this, I don't know what the scientific term is, but there's a lot of something that endorphins or whatever it is that gets released, and that it's exciting. Now we're in our own businesses and we've been in this business for 10, 20 or having many years. It doesn't mean we're not creative or innovative, but it's harder to get that stuff going. And it's almost like you need the big idea, which is what happened to us. You need the big idea to get excited again about finding ideas.
We need to write the letter in the song, If You Like Pina Coladas.
Yes.
This is where my brain went. Maybe that's where I need to be, is somewhere on a beach drinking pina coladas. But the whole concept of when we're in our rut of a relationship and in our rut of our business, we need to almost anticipate, what if I were to leave and do something totally different, to end up right back where you were, but with all new, fresh insight. And we need to somehow take the theme of that song and say, why is it when we're in our business every day, every week, every month, every year? And for some of us, it's been so many years, you're going, okay, why can't I just start something new in here now? Yeah. Why do I have to leave to make it new?
I'm sorry if I'm repeating myself, because I've been doing a lot of this lately and I don't know where I said this. So I might have said this last week. Did we talk about the what if, but the what if not? Did I say that last week? No. Doesn't sound familiar? Okay. But that's a very interesting question. And that's something that I went through a few months ago when I was really kind of going, what do I want to do? And so We're taught in our business to go, what if, what if, what if? But sometimes the question is, what if not? And what I mean by that is, what if we didn't do that? What if we don't do that anymore? What if I'm not a keynote speaker? Now, I went down that road and came back, but I came back with a whole bunch of different ideas. What if we don't offer this service? What if we don't work with clients like that? Because right now, what's obvious is what we're doing.
Yeah.
What's obvious is what we're doing. And we've become oblivious to the fact that what we're doing is so obvious and we don't even know it anymore. And so the trick is, how do you look at your business and remove things and see what would fill that spot? What if we didn't do this? What if we weren't this? What if we didn't make money on this? What if we did this for free? Like all of the not questions, right? Yeah. And I think that opens up some of the neurons in our brain to come up. But I do agree that when you've got new, exciting stuff happening, it's a lot easier to get creative.
And it still takes courage, because, a couple of years ago, I had to let go of, we had this giant book of business. It was 28 accounts that we had to say goodbye to because it was so much of a pain.
Yeah.
And it takes courage to say, what if we didn't do that? Yeah. But all of a sudden, there's this giant space that gets filled with new energy and new things. So we have to have that faith to know that it will fill with the right things when we stop doing some of these other things.
Yeah, one of my favorite Newmanisms is letting go leaves room for letting in. And until you let go, until you create that space, nothing can get in. And even if you say you're only creating imaginary space.
Yeah.
If there's no space, there's no space in your head, there's no space in your heart, there's no room for new ideas. You got to go, what if that wasn't there?
What if it was
here to say that's not there anymore?
Yeah.
Just like you did. I'd forgotten that story, actually.
Yeah.
Courageous. And we're out of time, but I do want to say something, is that I have no doubt that your project will be incredibly successful. And here's why. Because you are going to design it in the image of you.
Right.
And you are crazy and quirky and innovative and focused on all of these things. And but I say this seriously. There's no way that you as a person could do something that's stuck in the obvious in this new venture of yours. You are, and plus we hang out a little bit together, so some of it may have rubbed off. But exactly. But you have this instinct of just going to where the obvious isn't, if that's not an oxymoron.
Yeah.
So I have no worries. And I also think that if there's nothing out there that does this, stop worrying about the fact that some people might want this. Remember, don't pour water in your 200 bottle of wine. And if there's a great opportunity to niche, trust your gut. It will be awesome. That's my advice for you, my friend.
Great advice. You always have a bunch of wisdom, and we need to listen to anything Toni says. Do it.
I'm going to be sitting here a year from now wishing that I'd invested in whatever this stuff that you're doing. That's going to happen. But it is, we are way off time. So, Gina, I hope you don't have a glass of wine, do you?
I literally been, yeah.
I think you really need one now.
I do. I have one more call, and then I can wind down. Then I can truly wind down.
Then you can truly wind down.
I hope you have a wonderful weekend. We're having an early Thanksgiving, which you're already done with Thanksgiving. So we're having the in between Canada and U.S. Thanksgiving this weekend, and then we're heading to Arizona next week. So yeah, it'll be a fun weekend.
Yeah, we're going to close on what Bob says. Go to where the obvious isn't. Awesome. We'll leave everybody with that thought. Go where the obvious isn't. Have a great weekend, everybody, and we will see you next week on Wind Down.
Bye everyone.
Bye.